Yo, what's up? How we doing tonight? Are we awake? Are we alive? There's a lot of energy in this room tonight. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, so for those of you who may not know me, because we have a handful of some new students tonight, we are so welcome, so thankful that you are here tonight. My name is Tony. Hi. And so, welcome to Gateway Student Ministries. If I could begin to have your attention, please, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Sweet. Hey, so excited that you're here tonight as we kind of finish off our sexuality and dating series. It's been a long journey, but we're going to finish it off tonight with a little bit of a panel discussion. You're probably wondering, what are all these couch seatings up here? We're going to get to hear from some really smart and good-looking people tonight. And so, but before we do that, I have a couple of really important announcements to share with you. First off, I just want to say thank you to those of you who attended our service project this past Saturday at Camp at Old Mill. We had a really good time. Good time might be up for debate, but we did a ton of mulching. Can I have your attention, please? Awesome, thank you. We did a ton of mulching, and for those of you who attended, thank you so much. I already received a big thank you from the director of the camp, and just how much they loved and needed that to get done. So just thank you. For those of you who were able to attend, we'll have service projects continue on. We'll have one in the summer as well, and so would love to invite you to each opportunity we get to go and be the hands and feet of Jesus. And so thank you for doing that for those of you who attended. Let's see. We also have coming up this Friday, we have an event that you've probably been hearing a little bit about. It's called our Chaos to Clarity of Conference, and it's an opportunity for anyone who hasn't signed up yet. If you've signed up, we're pumped that you're coming. If you haven't signed up yet and you're like, what in the world is this event about? It's an opportunity for you as a student, if I could have your attention, please. It's an opportunity for you as a student to learn how to defend your faith a little bit more with some of these cultural ideas and concepts that are getting thrown at us every day, left and right, from social media to Netflix to political people, like ever in the church or whatever. Like, we're hearing these conversations. So check out this quick little video about it. Here we go.
Your world is changing.
Tell us the times.
Everything you once knew is being redefined.
To guilt is not denial. That's relativism. The answer to guilt is forgiveness.
Our culture tells us, no, don't put your identity in Jesus. Put your identity in your political party. Put your identity in your ethnic group. Or put your identity in your sexual preference. But don't you dare put your identity in Jesus. Ladies and gentlemen, you were created to know him and to make him known.
All right. Hey, so at this conference coming up Friday, 2 days from today, the sign-ups are still available. It's online. It's in our Instagram bio. Your parents have it in their emails as well. But we're going to tackle some really tricky topics. And we want to be able to dive into that together. As a youth group, and then as also students all over Chester County that are going to do this together. And so would love to see you there to be a part of that. It's only $10 to be able to attend, and you also have to, I haven't said this out of just forgetfulness, so I apologize, but you also have to bring some money for lunch on Saturday specifically, but $10 to be able to attend. And if you're already signed up, it's 5:15 that will show up at Calvary Fellowship Downingtown Church. So we're not showing up here. 5:15 at Calvary Fellowship Downingtown Church. And so if you are signed up, I'm going to send out like a text communication or something like that, so that you are aware of that. So would love to see you there for sure. The next thing that we have, lastly, is just to say Momentum Youth Conference is coming up in July, and there is the first deadline for Momentum. The best ticket price is coming up next Thursday, so 8 days, 7 days, 8 days. April 1st, next Thursday, the ticket price shoots up to $25, so not a ton, but it shoots up a little bit. So if you want the best ticket price, you have to sign up by putting a $75 deposit down before next Thursday. And so all the registration information is in our Instagram bio. It's your parents' email. Come talk to me if you're like, well, where do I find her? How do I sign up? I want to come, but I don't know if I can swing it because $485 is a ton of money, and I know it is. So if you're like, I could need some help financially, we'd love to help you be able to get there as well and join us on the bus. And so that's Momentum. Would love to see you there. One last thing that is awesome, incredible news that I need to share with you tonight. Last week we had if you were with us, we had one student that we got to share with you, Mr. Ben Mendez. He professed Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, and we got to celebrate him last week. Yeah, you can clap for that. So it was a wild night after small group where there's some conversations happening, and not one, but two other students said, I want to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I want to bring them up on stage right now. So Mr. Edwin and Xavier, come on up. So what I love about Edwin, when Ken grabbed me in the hallway and said that Edwin, he was like, Edwin, you want to tell Tony? And he was like, I just accepted Jesus all nonchalantly and whatnot. And I kind of because I was just like, this was my response. And I'm not sure if it was appropriate or not, but this was my response. I was like, bro, what the heck? Why tonight? Of all, that was my response. Because his brother, Anthony, accepted Jesus at fall retreat, and he's been kind of towing the line this whole time of do I want to accept Jesus? And so why? I was like, why tonight? And he just, what'd you say? It was just you're just tonight just felt right? And seeing Ben get celebrated, right? Yeah. And then Xavier and I had a really awesome conversation and just processing life and faith and what that means practically. And so, gentlemen, welcome to the family of faith in Jesus Christ. You guys, I am so blown away and encouraged by both of you. What, are you doing some sign language over here? What you doing? Still a middle schooler. Love it. So, I got these for you. Let me read them off to you. This is your new birth certificate. Edwin and Xavier, as ADHD as you are, I still love you. If you declare with your mouth, Jesus is Lord, believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Romans 10:9. Based on your profession of Jesus Christ, on March 16th, 2022, we are honored and humbled to present this certificate to you as a declaration of you crossing over from death to life in Jesus' name. This certificate is to be a daily reminder of the greatest decision you will ever make in your life. We are so proud of you and celebrate with you. Welcome to the family of faith in Christ. You are loved, you are valued, and you belong here. Guys, words cannot express how proud I am of both of you. And as we've been diving into this whole sexuality series, right? As we're talking about this stuff, this stuff is important, right? We're talking about sexuality, we're talking about dating, we're talking about marriage, we're talking about singleness, like all the needed stuff. This is the angels throwing a party in heaven. Can we join in that party right now? Oh, yours. I love it. I love it. All right, guys, get off the stage. For Xavier and Edwin! For Xavier and Edwin! For Xavier and Edwin! Awesome. All right, hey, I need to bring up our panelists. Please come on up to the stage. Yeah, I'm gonna make you sit in the middle. All righty. Hey, so we wanna land the plane of this 6-week series, and as we have discussed a lot, we have discussed about pornography. We've discussed singleness. We've discussed the concept of how am I pursuing to be the one that's a worthy candidate of being pursued, rather than always looking to be the one. How am I understanding a healthy context of honor and love of respect of the other person? And so we've talked about a lot. You guys have asked a lot of questions, and we have them basically all right here, and we want to discuss them with you tonight. And so, just so you're aware also, this discussion is going to kind of go into our small group time. So we're not really going to have a small group time kind of after this, okay? So just know that if you're feeling like this is going like a little bit longer, it's because this is small group time combined together. So just so you know that. So when we're done, you get to go and hang out in the lobby. So, well, here's what I want to do. I want our panelists to introduce themselves, and so do us a favor. We're going to go down this direction. Introduce who you are and your favorite sports team of any sport.
Okay, so I'm Grace. Hi, and my favorite sports team. There's so many sports, so that's crazy, but the Bengals are my favorite sports team. Thank you for the support.
Go Joe Burrow. My name is Dan Jones. Lesser half of this one. My favorite sports team is, I'll just make it really easy. Team USA, all the way. Yeah, thank you. There we go. All of them, yeah.
My name is Tiffany Lentz, and thank you. Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm Jody Feather, and my favorite sports team, I'm totally pulling the mom card. Anything my kids are playing on.
Classic.
It's true. My name is Scott, and hi. And mine is Florida State Seminoles. Everything.
What's a Seminole?
Everything.
My name is Ashton, and thank you guys. My favorite sports team is the Boston Celtics, but not the current Boston Celtics. I'm talking like 08, 09, when you guys were probably like really young. So, you gotta write it down again. Sorry.
So you're saying you're not proud of the Celtics now?
I don't really follow them as much.
Oh, you just don't follow them.
But when I was growing up, I would
Got
go
it,
home
okay.
and watch ESPN like every day, so I was a little weird.
Tracking.
So Boston Celtics.
Got it.
08.
Got it. Sweet. And I would say the Baltimore Orioles. So, yes. My name is Lewis. So,
No, those who don't.
Inside joke, except not. All right, so, guys, thank you. And girls, thank you for being here today. Before we dive into the great, deep questions that were asked, we have a couple of non-deep questions to ask that were asked by some of you. This is basically like the honorable mentions of the questions that were asked. So honorable mention number 1 is it okay to date a drug dealer? That was an actual question. And just so we are all on the same page. No, you should not date a drug dealer unless they are a medical doctor and they actually work for a hospital, pharmaceutical, whatever, right? That is second question. Second honorable mention is how many boyfriends has Lindsay Felker had? So, Lindsay, please come up. All right, Lindsay, could you, there are some people
There are a lot of you.
that are very nosy, and they really want that tea. So, what's the answer?
So the answer to the amount of boyfriends that I have had is 7. But there are quite a few others that I have had flings with. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
You can leave now. But right now you are happily single. And happily single, right? All right, cool. Those were the 2 honorable mentions. Now, time for the serious questions. Here we go. Numero uno. How young is too young to date? Kirsten, would you like to come up here and be on the panel? All right, here we go. How young is too young to date?
So I kind of chose to answer this question, and the first thing that came to mind was in Ephesians, actually, where it talks about honor your father and your mother. And the part of the verse that I kind of wanted to hit on, too, is this is the first commandment with a promise. If you honor your father and mother, things will go well for you, and you will have a long life. So that would be my first thing is, what do your parents say? And respecting what they say actually can affect your life. Now, is it fun to always obey your parents? No. I mean, let's be honest. But it is something that I would push back and challenge you with. So I would say talk to them. Is there rules that you guys have as a family? That would be my first answer. If you don't have rules, something our family did, we usually said group dating was a really big part of that. We usually encourage that, at least 15, 16, maybe moving into single dating, possibly 16 or 17, but really kept encouraging the group dating as much as possible.
And just to clarify, can you clarify what group dating is?
Yeah, just being with other people, not like having a third wheel with you or, being with a group of friends, hanging out, not just one-on-one with somebody of the opposite sex. So.
Yeah. And I think also, to respond to that question, I think also I would say that I know that many of you would say, yeah, but I want you to give me an actual age. When is it actually okay? And here's the thing. It's not an age. So many times it has everything to do with the maturity level. It has everything to do with where you're at in your walk with Jesus. How much trust have you gained from your parents? And those are the types of questions to ask within the question of how young is too young. So unfortunately, we're not going to give you an age because we don't think there is one. Now, I've already told middle schoolers, when I talked with middle schoolers back on week 2, I did say, I think you guys are probably too young to date, middle schoolers specifically. However, as we talked about, because you were with me when I said this, that if you are dating, we want to do it well, do it honoring to the other person, honoring to God. So, but generally speaking, that would be my rule of thumb. Not that you were wondering, but I just figured middle schoolers, I'd remind you once again. Here we go. What is, similar vein, similar concept, what is the youngest age you can get married? So someone's wondering about marriage, about the youngest age you can get married over here.
Someone is already thinking ahead. So before I even start answering this question, I want to say don't tune me out because I got married really young. But here's the thing. The church pushes a lot of times to get married really, really young. And there isn't like Jody was saying, there isn't a specific age that is too young. Make sure you're always, one, legal. Don't get married illegally in too young of an age. So that'd be the first recommendation. Make sure that you're in the legal limits of getting married. And then from there isn't, I think it really just depends on your season of life. And it's more of what season of life are you in? My biggest thing would be to tell you guys, don't let the world, church, culture, your friends, whoever, pressure you to get married at a certain age. So don't let anyone ever tell you, you're too young to do it, you're too young to handle it. If you have brought it to the Lord and people you've trust and are getting guidance in that, then don't let anybody tell you you're too young. On the flip side, don't be 20-something years old and have people be, or 30, or however old you may be, older than that, and have people be like, you're too old, you never got married, you missed the boat, whatever. So I would just encourage you guys, there is no right age. It's going to be different for everyone. But don't let the pressures of anyone ever tell you that you are doing it wrong. If it is right between you and the Lord and you and that person, go for it. And be legal.
I would piggyback on that too. You had touched on it. Just make sure you're getting godly counsel. I think
that's what I was gonna say.
parents, maybe, if you have good godly parents, asking their opinions, because I think having adults speaking into you and can sometimes see things that sometimes when you're in love, it's hard to see. And so just getting godly counsel, I think, is important, whether it's premarital counseling, pastor, or somebody that you respect, I think can sometimes have influence in you too.
Or how about not getting married in a hurry for the wrong reasons? If I don't hurry up and marry him, then he's going to not like me anymore. Or there might not be somebody else. Or, oh my gosh, I can't wait to have sex. Let's get married. Those are all the wrong reasons, all. So the right motivation as well.
That's good. It's really good. Is it a sin to date a non-Christian or someone who doesn't know Jesus?
So I'll go first on this one. And I agree with Tony. I know in so many of these questions you want very specific answers. Yes, no, the exact recipe for success in every way. And I mean, we'll do our best, but I think we would serve you best if we give you principles and pieces that you can look in God's word and deduce for yourselves if we give you the right components. So in this one, I'm actually not going to say yes or no. I'm going to answer it with a question. What's the point of dating? So if I am a believer and I know who I am in Christ, and I have lots of unsaved friends, you probably do too. And you should. You should be salt and light, and you should be befriending people and letting them see Jesus in your life. I work in the corporate world. I have lots and lots of unsaved friends. How else are they going to see Jesus? That's right. But do I date them? Do I enter into a more intimate, lowercase I, not sexually intimate, a more intimate relationship with them, I would have to ask myself, what's the point of dating? Well, the point of dating is to see if I might maybe want to marry that person. And then I have to step back and say, well, what does the Bible say about that? So I'm going to read a good verse for you. This is one of my faves. The high schoolers heard this one before. So Romans 8:16 says, the Holy Spirit makes God's fatherhood real to us as he whispers into our innermost being, you are God's beloved child. Since we're God's true children, we qualify to share all his treasures, for indeed we are heirs of God himself. And since we're joined to Christ, we also inherit all that he has and all that he is. What does that mean? It means that as a child of God, I am royalty. I am a prince or a princess. I'm a daughter of the King of the universe. So when I'm looking for someone that I might want to marry, I'm looking for someone to date, I'm looking for someone who has positional equality to me. So that please don't take those words to mean anything that society says about, oh, are they rich? Are they not? Are they this? Are they that? No. My position is I'm a child of the Most High God. If you are also a child of the Most High God, we can have a conversation about dating that may lead to something else. If not, we're not even speaking the same language as far as a foundation that we could build on. So we can be friends. We can get to know each other. You can come to church with me. But we can't enter into another space if we don't share that positional equality, which is, I'm a daughter of the Most High God. If you're not a son, we're not on the same playing field. So that's my answer.
That's good.
Yeah, and it is often that we hear or say to ourselves, well, we'll just missionary date. Like we can get them to love Jesus. We just need to give them more time, or I can change them. I can do this, whatever. Let me tell you, missionary dating is like exhausting because you're gonna find yourself putting the focus on that relationship of I need to save them so that this relationship will feel right, or I need to save them so that they can be like changed or whatever. And suddenly this relationship becomes all about saving that person and not actually building that relationship. So just make sure that, like what Tiffany was saying, that you are in that equal playing field. Don't let your worth get diminished because you're distracted of trying to save that person. Save them or give them like the gospel, but don't do it while you're trying to also build a relationship with them in a more romantic way.
That's good. That was really good. Really, thank you for speaking into that tough question, for sure. Let's see. How do you navigate between friendship versus feelings, like romantic feelings, as you enter into the beginning of a relationship? So how do you navigate friendship to feelings as you enter into the beginning of a romantic relationship?
So I'll take this one. I think like a good general rule, and I think you'll hear it across the board here, or just a good general concept is to bring someone along with you during the dating process. And there's this kind of this idea that to find either a mentor or a trusted friend, a parent, someone to bring along within the dating process and to say like, to come back to and say like, hey, we did this and this is how this made me feel, or hey, we've come to this decision, what do you think I should do? It's this concept that we shouldn't do it alone because our hearts can go a lot of different places. And so I would just encourage you guys, when you're navigating the first few weeks, the first month or whatever, to really communicate. Grace and I have this rule to always over-communicate rather than to under-communicate. If there's ever a moment that I'm not sure, to just say, you know what, maybe I'm being a little annoying, or can we go over this again? And I would rather over-communicate and to know exactly where she stands, or for her to know exactly where I stand, rather than to kind of get to a place where what did you mean there? Or oh, sorry, I didn't understand you. And so if you can do that, and I'll speak especially to the guys, that you have a responsibility or you have the privilege to lead. And so if you are clear and concise with your partner of hey, this is where I want to go, or maybe we're spending too much time, or whatever that is. And if you have a mentor in your life or someone that you can process these things in this role with, you'll be able to navigate this better than just troubleshooting or guessing. So my encouragement was just to find someone to date with. I don't know.
So, next question would be, does the person you date have to get your parents' approval?
That's a tough one, but not really, because we go back to that verse that I shared before, honor your father and your mother. And so whether, what does that mean? I would probably just have a conversation with your parents. I know in our family, one of the rules always was for our daughter that any guy that she dated needed to have a conversation specifically with Scott to say, like, hey, is this guy worth our daughter? And then with our son, Camden, we had him specifically asking permission from the dad, too. Like, hey, is this okay if I date your daughter? I'm interested. And some of that's like, what does this look like? And how can we come alongside you and encourage you? So I would just, go back to, yes, I think it's important to honor your parents. Is it necessarily a blessing or permission? That's probably based on your own family, but I think it can never be a bad thing to get their blessing and their permission. And it's also showing respect, I think, if you are the guy, to ask that of someone else's parent. I think that shows a lot of respect and kind of manhood in a lot of ways, It takes a lot to be able to ask that question, but I think you'll get a lot of brownie points. Not that you're doing it for that reason, but it does show a lot of respect and character.
Can I piggyback off that real quick?
Please.
As someone who has gone through the entire process, building that relationship with the family is super important. Because I think we get this idea that, like, oh, you just marry either your wife or your husband, but you really marry into their family. And so, if you can at the get-go, you're like, you know what, like, I really want to pursue this girl, I want to pursue this guy, to really, as best as you can, invite the family into that, as you continue to grow, you want that family to be a part of that. And I understand that, when I say that, there's a lot of different family situations out here. So again, I go back to having someone you can process this with, because there's just a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of, well, but you don't know this about my family, or, well, what about this? So find someone that you can really process that with and trust. But as much as you can invite the family into that process, when you guys get really serious and you start spending, for us, spending Christmases and Easters and all that kind of stuff, if you can start building that relationship early, it's huge.
And also to say that from someone who has done that, asking Mary Beth's dad for permission, I'm not gonna lie, it's stupid nerve-wracking. I don't know why, but I was filled with so much anxiety. He is the most gentle man on the face of the planet. And yet I was terrified. And so not to say that it's not going to be a little maybe anxiety inducing if you're going to ask. However, to echo everything to say, it's such a good move. It's such a good move to do that and to have an honest conversation and process with the other's parents. So.
And just to add one more thing, girls, if a guy's willing to go to bat for you that way, how cool is that? So I think it's a big deal.
Don't text him though. Call him or go to his house, but don't hey.
Oh, the dad.
BT Dubs, can I date your daughter? Or no.
And just one more perspective on this question. Think about the person that you're entering a relationship with, and think about how it might feel for them to be like, oh, yeah, you don't have my parents' approval, or my family doesn't like you, or something. Think about it from that perspective. As someone in high school, for myself, who really wanted to be in a relationship with someone my parents didn't really like, it was always really difficult to feel like I wanted to spend time with them, but my parents didn't really approve of it, or to have to skirt around things in conversations with that person to be like, they would be like, I want to hang out with you. And I'd be like, oh, well, we can do it here under these circumstances, or getting caught in really awkward situations. So just always think about, too, how fair it would be to the person on the other side of it if you were going against your parents and it ended up affecting them, too.
That's good. Yeah, love that. All right, not a light question at all. How can you feel less lonely while being single? How can you feel less lonely while being single?
Yeah. First of all, I just love that someone thought of this, and this is a question because I think it's really important. I feel like there's a lie, right, that if I'm not dating somebody or if I'm not in a relationship, then I have more of a tendency to be lonely. But romantic relationships aren't the only place where we can experience love. Like, God created community, he created friendships, he created the church. I mean, come on, guys. There are we limit God and we limit just like what he can do when we act like we can only experience like true intimate relationship romantically. So, I mean, just speaking from experience, I've been single for almost a year now, and I think this year I've never felt more like valued and more fulfilled than I have, and I'm not in a relationship. And I just think that's a testimony to the Lord and what he's like been able to do in my life and show me that, you know, you have these really good friends that love the Lord, you have like this awesome church you're going to, whatever. He puts so many things in our lives, and if we overlook that and we're just looking for a relationship, like, we're really limiting what Jesus can do through other people, and he loves to work through other people. So, yeah, church, hobbies, like friends, like you have so much more time when you're single too. So, just, yeah, don't limit God and what he can do.
And I think there's a faulty understanding that if you're in a relationship, you're never going to be lonely. I mean, I think about there's been lots of times in my life where we've been married and she's probably been lonely, right? Because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do or whatever. So there can be this assumption that if I just had somebody, I will never be lonely. And I'm just telling you, if you have that, it's going to break your heart, right? Because people let each other down. And so it sounds cheesy and we're in church, but I'm just telling you it's not cheesy. Like a relationship with God, even though there's times he's going to feel distant to you or whatever, but if you're going into a relationship just so that you never feel lonely, that might be even a wrong way to go into a relationship. And there's just not going to be perfect, and you're going to hurt them and they're going to hurt you. So I don't know if there's an easy answer to this, but just the assumption that, you know, there's another assumption sometimes, you know, guys have. Girls may have it too, but I'm not a girl, so I'm just going to speak as a guy thing. It's like, well, you know what? I won't struggle with porn one day when I have a wife. If you struggle with porn now, you'll struggle with porn then. Does that make sense? So it's not like all of a sudden the ring or marriage instantly makes everything better, or relationships make it better. So I realize I just went outside the scope of the question, but yeah, that loneliness thing is a hard thing, because I think we've all been lonely before. We've just all been lonely, and it's not a fun place to be. But that's where if you can lean in, again, it sounds cheesy, but I believe with my whole heart, if you can lean into God in those moments, it's not only good for those moments, it's good for moments later.
Another one on the deeper side or different side. Can you be friends with your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend? Should you be friends with your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend?
Guys, okay. With this, okay, I guess I'm very passionate about this because I always want you guys to be healthy. So when it comes to this, no matter if the relationship ended terribly, mutually, whatever, please take time to work and care for yourself. So I've been in situations where it's never been friends with that person again, have had to completely cut them out of my life because if they are, my mental health and my entire health of myself will suffer. I've also been in relationships where I've had to take some time, and after that, a friendship has rekindled, and we're still friends to this day. So I've been in both positions. But at the end of the day, oh my goodness, do whatever you need to do to be healthy. And even if the relationship ended so well, make sure you're taking space to process what that relationship was. Because you can say, wow, we ended mutually. This is great. We can move on and be friends. But you won't necessarily realize if you move on so fast the effects that relationship still had. They could have been good effects, bad effects, but you won't realize them until you actually take time out of the relationship. Because coming out of that breakup or whatever, your mind is going to be swirling, you're going to be thinking about a million different things, and when you're in it, you can't really see things either because you're so clouded by the relationship. So my advice would be, no matter how the relationship ends, always take time. You don't have to cut a friendship out with that person. If you take time and you realize, okay, this can be healthy, we can work towards a healthy friendship, go for it. If you for a minute think that this person is going to bring less good to your life than they will bring good, just move on. There's so many more better people out there for you to fill your life with. So whatever it is, I just encourage you guys to take time and really see, take time to process that relationship before trying to even move forward in a friendship or not with them.
And I'll add, however it may come, when you are no longer in a relationship, your responsibility or your privilege to that person changes. And so I just want to encourage you, if you're like, I'm ready to get together, or have that closure conversation, or I'm ready to move on and be friends with this person, to really, the ball is no longer in your court. It's like, what are they saying? And so if they're like, I need space, and you're not willing to give them that, to be really mindful of that, because there are times when and I remember a relationship where I wasn't willing to give that person space, even though we ended things. I was like, no, we're good, we can, whatever, that kind of thing. It was harder because she went to church with me, but I wasn't giving her that space, even though I thought I was good to go. So to be really just mindful of, the ball is no longer in your court. You're kind of doing what they're saying now. And so if they're saying, I need that space, just to give it to them. Okay? Thank you.
And I think it's also, I appreciate, Grace, actually you saying you have kind of two examples from your own life to speak from, because I think, again, we don't have a concrete answer to a question like this, where sometimes the answer is, no, you should not be. And then sometimes the answer is, you know what, it can be, and maybe you need to be very, very delicate with the way it's processed and approached and so on and so forth. But it can be. So I can speak from a personal example where the girl prior to Mary Beth that I dated, we broke up. It was very mutual, and it was very cordial. And then over time, we were friends. And all the way to the point where I actually invited her to my wedding, and she came, and it was kind of funny. But and so it can happen. But I also would say more times than not, there is much space that needs to be given for both of you, as Grace tactfully said. Work on yourselves and give your space to be healthy. So, how has being single affected your self-awareness? How's being single affected your self-awareness?
Yeah, this was a deep question for me. I had to think about it a lot and actually pray into it quite a bit. And I very much, I'm going to answer it two different ways. One is in the spirit, I think, in which it was asked, which is more about what did I learn about myself, or what can I learn about myself? And a lot of what Grace was just saying resonated a lot with me. You totally married up, by the way. She's really smart. It is really, I was not very good at this in my earlier dating experiences of taking time, not rebounding, or taking time to think about the relationship, and whether it's mutual or he ended or I ended or whatever. There's still so much emotion attached. It's hard at first to be able to step back and let the emotion settle and actually think or hear, remember. So the self-awareness aspect for me came in a couple ways. It was taking a minute, just letting the emotion settle a little bit, to the point where I could actually see the relationship for what it was. What were the good things about it? What were the bad things? What were some things I really do need to think about for myself? Other part, and I won't take too long on this one. The other part, I was a very big kind of epiphany for me at a point, was I started to become very aware of God's awareness of me and my season of singleness. And where was he? Was he paying attention? Was he there? I didn't always have a very close relationship with the Lord. And so as I was learning in a season of singleness, reading the Bible, trying to understand, trying to just like sow into that part of my life, hoping that would make me feel better, guess what? It did. And I learned quite a lot of things about the way God saw my season. So I have a verse for you. Psalm 139, 1 through 6. The first time I read this, it was like somebody hit me across the face with a 2x4. Like I couldn't quite understand how I had not known this my whole life, and I grew up in church. So I'll read these 6 short verses for you. Lord, you know everything there is to know about me. You perceive every moment, every movement of my heart and soul, and you understand my every thought before it even enters my mind. You're so intimately aware of me, Lord. You read my heart like an open book, and you know all the words I'm about to speak before I even start a sentence. You know every step I will take before my journey even begins. You've gone into my future to prepare the way, and in kindness you follow behind me to spare me from the harm of my past. With your hand of love upon my life, you impart a blessing to me. This is just too wonderful, deep, and incomprehensible. Your understanding of me brings me wonder and strength. That about covers every possible scenario that you could come up with to say, God doesn't see me, he doesn't know what I need, he probably can't forgive me for this, or he doesn't know where we're going, or he doesn't understand my feelings. No, that covers all of it. His understanding of us is so much better than our understanding of ourselves. And in those seasons of singleness, I would become more aware of God's awareness of what he was preparing for me. And even though I'm believing for marriage, I am praying in that direction. I love this quote from one of my favorite preachers, Bill Johnson. He's the head of Bethel Ministry out in California. He said, when God doesn't...
I'm your second favorite preacher, right? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to...
Second.
Before you get there, I just was...
That was so awkward.
I'm so
Second.
sorry.
Oh, my.
It was very impulsive.
My second favorite preacher, he says, when God does not answer something right away, it's gaining interest, which would align so perfectly with these verses, right? He knows what's in our heart, and what he has for us is going to be so good because he knows us better than we know ourselves. So God's awareness. The quote is, when God doesn't answer our prayer right away, the answer is gaining interest.
I like that.
You're welcome.
All right, Dan, while you're having your moment, I'm just going to continue to answer the question. But I really appreciate that. I think that that's good. A lot of it is kind of like some of what I was thinking. But I think a lot of times we think of singleness as a period of waiting. And in one sense it is, because some of us do want to be in a relationship eventually. But if all we see it as is a season of waiting, we're actually wasting it. Like, I don't even remember where, but I saw a quote the other day, and it was like, singleness shouldn't be as much like about waiting, it should be about doing. Because we don't need someone else to be romantically involved with us to be who we're supposed to be in Christ, right? So just to like put a different perspective on it, like there's a lot to be done when we're single. It gives us space to be on our own. I found, at least for me, it's given me space to develop my personal identity a little bit more. And also, guys, to heal and reflect on the ways that I've negatively impacted my past relationships. Okay? I think that there's a really big thing nowadays where we're like, well, I broke up with this person because they're toxic. Sometimes you're the toxic one. I was the toxic one. So singleness has really, really allowed me to be like, I have hurt people. I've done so many things in my relationships that aren't good. How do I work through this so that I don't repeat this? Like, if we don't repair ourselves and we don't repair our patterns, we repeat them.
That's good.
So, thanks, Dan. But yeah, so when I'm thinking about self-awareness, my season of singleness has really allowed me to discover myself and also just see like how I can be a better Christ follower. And I'm doing all this not to prepare for somebody. I'm doing all this for myself. Because if God doesn't have marriage for me, then I still have to live with myself. So I think it's really good too to acknowledge that your sense of self should be really strong, rather than just waiting and waiting and waiting for somebody else to come along and complete you, because all your problems will still be there. So, yeah.
That's really good. Both of you. Really, really wise, insightful things you have shared with us. Thank you.
It is. It's the red hair.
It's the red hair?
I told her, I said, that's me when I'm older. The red hair, blue eyes. We got a thing going.
So, hey, as we continue on our questions here, we want to do our best to hit as many as we can. So if we can be quick on our draws with our responses, so we can try to get all of them. And unfortunately, I do apologize in advance if we do not have time to hit your particular question. Hoping to be able to hit it though. So here we go. Is masturbation a sin?
Your timing sucks with the brief answers.
Be quick, Tiffany.
Man, okay, let me be quick about this. Wow. So first of all, I applaud you all for being gutsy enough to ask a question like this. Thank you for that. And I wish that someone had talked to me when I was a teenager about this particular topic, because nobody did. And that was just fully taboo. So we're going to tag team on this one a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And try to, again, I'm not going to come right out and answer you with a yes or no at the moment. What I do want to do is equip you with some things and some understanding here. I think the worst advice I could give you is to say, this is what Tiffany says. Because when we're in really, really difficult situations, when we're alone, when we're in a pressure-filled situation, when we're with someone and our emotions are running high, the worst possible thing to do is to have nothing to fall back on except what somebody said. That's about all I was equipped with. I grew up in church, but that's about all I was equipped with, were a set of rules. Meant nothing to me when I was in a pressure-filled situation of like, is this okay? Is that okay? Well, that person said, well, so what they said. So here, don't take my word for it or Dan's word for it. Let's take God's word for it. And what we know about this particular sexual activity is that it feels like it's something nobody knows anything else about. It feels like it's just you. It's just all in your mind. And even if you're really great at wearing a mask and not telling anybody what's in your thoughts, God actually does know that, right? We know that. And what I think, especially because of the time in which we almost everybody in this room is under the age of 50, almost. So we all grew up in about the same time frame. We are inside the latest sexual revolution. And what society will tell us, and our unsafe peers, and anything and everything on social media is, it's my body, it's my business, it's my mind, my business, it's my decision, as long as it's consensual, it's just me and the computer, so it doesn't matter to anyone else. All of that is a lie. It is all a lie, because the Bible strongly disagrees with that. And we don't have time tonight to break it all down, but here's what we do know. So I'm going to rattle off a handful of scriptures, because this is truth. This is not Tiffany's opinion. This is truth. And it's not easy to hear. And it's also not something that like jives with what we want, what the devil wants us to believe is true, okay? So, super quick. Proverbs 23:7. Dum dum dum. As a person thinks in their heart, so are they. Okay? So it's truth. Whatever I'm thinking about, whatever is in my heart, it is. Proverbs 4:23. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows every piece of life. This clearly matters to God. The number of references we could read for you is extensive. We're limiting it here. It clearly matters. What's going on in our heart and what we allow in our mind clearly matters to God. So now, let's hear what he has to say for himself.
Or
I have a verse by Jesus.
Oh, I thought you looked at me and said him, he. and
No,
I
I'm
was
totally
like,
just engaged. You are not God. I'm just engaging you. Jesus said, dude, you're so funny. You totally married up. I have the wrong reference in front of me. Forgive me. Okay, so I'm going to read you Matthew 5, verse 28. Promise. I promise. Come on, Tiffany. Get it together. My apologies. Your ancestors have been taught never commit adultery. However, this is Jesus himself. I say to you, if you look with lust in your eyes at the body of a woman who is not your wife, you've already committed adultery in your heart. So ladies, let's be honest. We could put women in there too. We have no problem checking out men, and we have no problem getting a little bit more bold and talking about it to our friends. The Bible says that's not okay, all right? So it absolutely says that it is my responsibility to control whatever thoughts the enemy tries to plant in my head about another person who may or may not be my brother in Christ. Ugh. That makes it even worse. So it actually is my responsibility.
Yeah, fantastic, and sorry for that weird transition. Yeah, and also, I mean, if you remember back to, so when Grace and I talked about pornography, we discussed that sex is something that we give, something that is meant to be out of abundance rather than something that we take when we're lacking. And most often, if not like every time, masturbation is something that like we're trying to fill a void. You know, and we might be looking at images, we might be looking at videos, we might be creating our own, fantasy in our heads. And at the end of the day, it's a taking. It's a, hey, I feel like I need this. I feel like I need to fuel this addiction. I'm hooked. Like I have emptiness and I'm trying to fill it. And so, and that's how masturbation, at least in my life, has always been. It's always been a taking. It's always been I need to fill this void. When in reality, sex is something that you are so engrossed in your partner, in your commitment to each other, that it's a gift that you can't help but desire to give yourself. And so, with that in mind, masturbation being a sexual thing, that's supposed to be something. Sex is supposed to be something that we give rather than we take, and masturbation is a taking. So. And I have a verse that as well. And so in light of, you might be like, now I have to wrap my head around this new concept. And so Romans 12 says this. It says, stop imitating the ideals and opinions of the culture around you, but be inwardly transformed by the Holy Spirit through a total reformation of how you think. This will empower you to discern God's will as you live a beautiful life, satisfying and perfect in his eyes. And so at the end of the day, how we view sex, how we view, sex, it needs to be renewed. We need to push it back against culture that says sex is something that we take. It's all about me. It's all about, how I feel. And we need to redefine that in our heads and our hearts. We need to ask God to make that change in our minds for us, because we can't for ourselves. So.
And one more thing, guys. I feel like with things like this, it's always, like they're saying, to fill a void. And can I just tell you that you're never going to feel better after doing it? And even when you try and think, this is going to make me feel better, this is going to make me feel better when I engage in activities like this, you're going to always feel worse coming out of it than you went into it. And that's because you're trying to fill the void with something that's not Jesus. And anything you participate in where you try to fill a void that is there with something that's not Jesus, you're going to come out of it feeling worse than you went into it. And so I know that it's like this thing where it's like, oh, this is going to make me feel better, or it's again taking it out of a lack instead of an abundance. And so I just wanted to remind you guys that as much as the world will say this is going to make you feel better, you will come out of it feeling worse. And unless it is Jesus Christ, that void is never going to feel filled.
Yeah. And I think this is an appropriate moment also to say, that if you are someone in this room that is wrestling with lust, pornography, masturbation, other things of that in that sexual realm, I need you to know this, that you are not defined by those sins. there is grace, there is forgiveness, there is mercy at the foot of Jesus Christ. And so if that is a piece of your story, and if that's something you're wrestling with right now, we should never, ever, ever, ever abuse the grace of God. But know that you have the grace of God. And that does not, and those sins do not define you. Your identity in Jesus and his death and resurrection defines you. So. Well, before that question, I said, let's go shorter responses. And so in our final chunk of time here, now we will go more speedy responses as we go, okay? So the Micah will unmute you, or will mute you if you go longer than 30 seconds in your response.
We can't all talk as fast as you, Tony.
I know. So here we go. This is now going to be a speed round of questions, all right? Because we still have a bunch to get through. And again, we might not get through all of them. So here we go. How do you keep focused on God while dating?
Okay, so I could give you a bunch of the basic answers, which is like read your devotions more and make sure that you're doing, read your Bible, pray, worship, all those things. All of them are great, but those will never happen unless you make the choice to do so. So you have to wake up every day and say, I'm making the choice to put Jesus first. And through that, your relationship will thrive in so many better ways when you are putting Jesus at the forefront of it. So even if that sounds basic, it is a choice that you just have to make. And you can't be focused more on God while dating until you decide to make that choice for yourself.
And when you date someone who is a Christian, we'll go back to that question, it is 1,000 times easier. Imagine trying to focus on God when your partner does not believe in God or does not care about him. Those kind of things. So those kind of work in tandem.
And I think also the question I would ask in tandem with that one is like, how can you tell when your relationship is more focused on the other person and not God? Like, what are some signs you could tell about that?
Yeah, for me, that has always been, I have to check like how much mental real estate I'm spending on that person. And I tend to like love hard and deep and spend a lot of time thinking about the person and talking about them and then talking to other people and praying. I'm also long-winded. But I would just ask you to check that and keep it in balance. If you find that you're spending more time talking about one person instead of actually listening to your friends, or that every time you're talking to God, all you're doing is praying about that person and what's going to happen in your relationship, probably getting a little bit too out of balance there, and you need a healthy balance.
And again, this is another plug of why I think it's a really great idea to be dating alongside with someone like a mentor or a trusted friend, because sometimes we don't know. We need someone else to tell us, say, hey, when's the last time you prayed, or when was the last time that you whatever, because our hearts go astray, and so we need people around us to say, hey, I've noticed like you've not been coming to youth group, oh, you're hanging out with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or whatever, that kind of thing. We need people to do that because sometimes we can't be that for ourselves. We need to be humble to the reality that our hearts are deceptive.
If you're in a dating relationship, how do you keep up with friendships? It can be hard to keep in touch and plan hangouts. How do you get around that and keep your friendships healthy while in a romantic relationship?
I know it kind of sounds weird, but I would encourage you to maybe time block, which is kind of an adult thing. And what that means is kind of setting aside different days or different times to hang out with friends or hang out with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and kind of making specific times, because if you don't pencil in those times, the time's just going to get filled up with other things. So really being intentional of like, okay, what does my schedule look like, and when can people fit into that, and really trying to be specific of who you're hanging out with.
That's good.
Because we all only have 24 hours in a day, so what are you going to do with it?
Yep.
That's literally exactly what I was going to say. Time blocking, or the phrase Saturdays for the boys. Creating specific time where you're like, I'm gonna hang out with my friends, or I'm gonna hang out with my boyfriend, my girlfriend, or whatever. Grace and I have to do that. She asks that I'm home for at least 2 days during the week, because I love being everywhere else and doing all these things, and so I have to be intentional with that. I have to schedule my time accordingly.
Yeah. And also just to say that, like, if you are dating, like, this person is not your husband. They're not your wife. Like, go and spend time with your friends. Let them, you live your life individually. Let them live their life individually. Like, go and you don't have to be joined at the hip 24/7.
It's okay to be selfish. Throwback to anyone who was there a few weeks ago.
Say what?
Yeah, and so, like, yeah, thinking about this, like, your friends matter to you. And your significant other, yes, they matter, but, like, don't neglect your friendships. Like, those things are so crucial to keep around in a romantic relationship. So, let's see. How do I know if my significant other is the one?
Guys, let me blow your mind. There is no one. Can I say it again? There is not a one. A professor in college told me that there are a lot of... Thank you. Okay. There are so many people in the world that you could live a long, happy life with. There are so many of them. And God knows exactly who you're going to end up with. So don't stress out about if you're spending the rest of your life with the one. Did I find the one? Because reality is you will be happy. There's plenty of people in the world that you could live a long, happy life with. And God knows exactly who it's going to be. And it comes down, again, just like putting God first in your relationship, it comes down to a choice. So when you are with someone and you are thinking, again, you've talked to trusted people, you've talked to parents, you've talked to God, you know that this is the person you want to move forward with, it just becomes a choice that you are going to choose that person every single day.
I would also say pray hard. Start praying now. I don't care what age you are, just that God would reveal who that right person is. I'm not saying there's a one, but whoever it is, just that God would be protecting that person spiritually, physically, that they would be making choices that are going to help your relationship in the future, and then praying about yourself and, where you are at and how you can continue to grow your relationship with the Lord. But just praying, and I think he does show you. I remember, I tried to make this short, but the guy I dated before Scott, I called my mom from college, and I was like, I just feel like maybe I'm struggling in this relationship, and maybe I shouldn't be with him, but I loved him, and we were talking marriage and all this stuff. And so my mom and I started praying that God would bring another girl into his life if this wasn't the one for me. 2 days later, I found out he was cheating on me. And as devastating as it was, God answered my prayer specifically, and he showed me that, this wasn't the man for me. And I'm thankful. And so, just continuing to pray, just that God would direct. He definitely does if you seek him.
Yep, it's really good. And I think that that I would say, the way that I word it, because I completely agree with Grace, that there's not the concept of the one, where if you don't find the one person in the 7 billion people on the planet, that you're out of the will of God. Don't believe that. That will stress the crap out of you, and it causes so much anxiety. So more so this concept, I'm looking for a one in the pool, the batch of the ones, where there's a type of person, a character-filled person that you're looking for, and it's A1 in the ones. It's kind of like what you're looking for. All right, 2 questions, and we're done here. Question is this. This can be for anyone. What does it look like to intentionally seek out Jesus together in a relationship? What are things you do to grow closer to Jesus together?
Honestly, I think more of it has to do with you individually exploring and falling in love with the person of Jesus. Now, that's not my way to say you don't do it together, but I am saying it really is an individual thing that you not only fall in love with Jesus, but you fall in love with Jesus because you realize that he fell in love with you first. And if you are doing that and seeking after Jesus, and this other person that you get a chance to spend time with is doing that too, it will change the nature of your conversations together. So you're not even going to have to work at it. It's like, because now the most important thing in your life is your love for God because of God's love for you, and then you're going to share that, and then instantly you just have richer conversations. So again, don't hear me say that you don't do it together, but I think it's a natural byproduct of you doing it individually.
That's good. Would anyone else like to speak into that?
I know there's this this verse that talks about, like, you know, if one is down, you know, what is it again? Like when one person is down, like you know, if you're someone.
Oh.
What is it? Like I can't.
It's Ecclesiastes, right?
Yeah, it talks about like two is better than one because when one is down, the other can like help her up, that kind of thing. So I like what Scott said, but again, like he highlighted the importance of it being like, you know, an individual thing, you know, like, and again, this kind of comes back to the, you know, not missionary dating, just being really mindful that like a person's individual, you know, spirituality is their own, they're responsible for it. And, you know, with Grace and I being married, yes, I get to help her and she helps me, but we can't do it for each other. We can't. And to be really mindful of, you know, when you're dating, you know, what are you for that person, or what are they for you? You know, or do each of you individually have a strong, mature relationship with Christ, or is it kind of getting lopsided where you feel like you're kind of like pulling them along, you know, and to just be mindful of that. So.
All right, so final question, and I'd love to see if everyone can give a quick hit response to the question. And so,
yes.
What is your best advice that you would give leaving our students today? Whether it's dating, whether it's sexual integrity, whether it is being single, what like best advice that you can give to our students to put you on the spot. It doesn't have to be profound. We have 6 different responses that can come here. But what would you say is just a piece of advice that you'd love them to be left with today?
Love yourself. You're worthy. Yeah, just realize that you're not going to find fulfillment in somebody else if you're not satisfied with your relationship with Jesus, but also just being satisfied with who you are. Because as much as a relationship is a good thing, if you're not fulfilled in yourself and who you are, you'll never find that in somebody else either, because they're just going to, like was said before, they're going to let you down. So.
She took mine. Let me think of something. No. It's always a good idea to work on being the one, being a better girlfriend, boyfriend, so that you're constantly growing and you're looking more like Jesus all the time. And that way, regardless of what relationship you're in the next relationship, you don't take that baggage and let those things haunt your future relationship. You're actually healing and growing and changing and constantly looking more like Christ. Like be aware when you're in a relationship. Be aware of who the other person is. Be aware of who you are, and keep being open to growing and changing.
That's good.
I think I would say don't make marriage the goal of your life, because then you'll rush to marry the wrong person, and that's a mess. So the goal of your life should be to be in relationship with Jesus and to make him known. So do that, and if marriage comes along, then that's awesome, and if it doesn't, well, you can still live out your purpose. So don't make marriage the goal of your life, because that will definitely let you down.
Leave room for Jesus. And I don't mean that in the physical, leave 3 Bibles between you. I mean that in every single area of your life, leave room for Jesus to work. He can work in your relationships, he can work in your jobs, he can work in school. So no matter what you're doing, and especially when it comes to relationships, just leave room for him to work and leave space for him to be present in your life.
And I would just say, kind of like my personal relationship mantra is just to do it with somebody, you know, like to really just include other people into that journey, to process with you, to help you with decisions, to bounce ideas and emotions and responses off because our hearts are deceitful and other people's hearts are deceitful. So if we can get another trusted set of eyes looking into the situation and advising you, you will always be better off.
And I would just say God's way really is perfect. So even though the world, I love that stuff you said before, Tiff, about just the world and what it's going to, but God's way really is perfect. And so that sounds like a weird thing to say about relationship advice, but following his standards will never leave you unsatisfied, because he really is the only one that can satisfy you anyway. Tony, do you mind if I answer one more question really quickly?
Please.
Somebody just said, I've been hurt by previous churches. How do I know which church will not severely hurt me again? I don't know I don't know the backstory of this question, okay? Let me just say this, though. If part of that church hurt involves, sexual things that were done wrong to you, first of all, we're really sorry. And God cares about that. And I would encourage you, with somebody trusted in a small group or something, your small group leader, I'm saying leader, probably not even small group at this point, right? But the leader, you need to process that with somebody. You really do. And I'm sorry that it happened. And I just want you to know that no church is going to be perfect. And churches are, let's get away from the sexual for a second. Churches are going to hurt you because churches are filled with people, and people just hurt people. But I want you to know from our heart, let's go back to the sexual thing. If somebody ever does anything inappropriate, please come tell us. I know that's hard, and I know that's can I trust them? I get that, but I'm telling you, we care and love you and desire to protect. And the church is filled. When I say church, I'm not talking about people who've given their life to Jesus. I'm talking about people who walk in the doors of church. And there's a difference between that. There are people who wish to do evil. And I wish we could keep them out of church, but we can't. And so I'm just saying, please have a conversation with somebody. I realize there may be shame that is associated with that, but that is not on you. That's not on you. So anyway, if you ever want to talk more about that, again, Tony or any of your small group, we'd be happy to talk about that. But I just want you to know we want to create a safe space where you can share that stuff. And if anything inappropriate ever happens to you, please, 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 please find the person that you trust the most and have that conversation with you, because we will do everything that we can to protect you. That's all.
Yeah, thanks for that. And though that is a little bit of a heavier way to conclude our time, we do want you to know this. Every single one of us wants you to know that you are deeply loved. And we care so much about you. And we want to see you thrive and flourish in your relationships. And so please keep connecting with people that you trust. Learn from our mistakes so you don't do the same thing. We'd love to talk with you more about that. So if your question wasn't asked or answered, I apologize. Any one of us would love to talk about your specific question if it wasn't answered. So we'll all be out in the lobby for a few minutes or in here, whatever, to connect if you wanted to for your question that wasn't asked, or just in general if you need a follow-up. Would love to do that with you. Guys, you have hung in well together as we have tackled this panel discussion. And so as we conclude our 6-week series here, can we thank our panelists for being here with us today? And so with that, we are concluding here today. And so here's what's going to happen next. If I could have your attention for 30 more seconds, then you're getting dismissed. One is, as you go out into the lobby, snacks should be ready. Could I get a youth staff just to get out there to make sure that the snacks are ready? That'd be great. So snacks should be ready when you head out into the lobby. Secondly, per usual, if you can, when I say go, you'll stack a chair to your left or to your right. That'd be super helpful. If you have a white chair, you can put it up against that back wall there. I haven't said go yet. I haven't said go. Thirdly, if you don't have a GSM sweater,